Welcome to the Scoop with Dukes. I'm your host, Philip Dukes, aka Dukes D Scoop. Check me out on Twitter and Instagram at Dukes D Scoop. And please be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. I have the #1 YouTube show, podcast, audio in Auburn. It doesn't get any bigger or better than Zac Blackerby. Zac, what's going on, big dog?
My guy, it's been way too long. Good to catch up with you.
For sure, man. Locked On Auburn is doing phenomenal, man. I love how you've built the platform, and thank you for spending some time with me to talk about the Auburn Tigers. So let's start here. The firestorm this summer has been about recruiting. Now, last year, I took a beating for coming on your show and saying I thought Auburn would be #1, or they had a chance to be a #1 class if they won 8 games. Let me ask you this. Currently ranked outside of the top 50 by a far margin.
Yeah.
Do you see a world where Auburn can have a top 10 class? And if so, how do they get there?
I don't. I mean, I think some crazy things would have to happen. And almost doesn't even feel like that's an appropriate goal at this point. I mean, if you gave me a top 20 class and a decent record on the field, I think I would take that right now. Now, it's not impossible, especially with what happens on August 1st when you can have all these official deals hit. And if other schools get dinged by, the governing bodies of this new era of college football that we have, and they say, hey, y'all can't pay these kids what you're saying you're paying them, and it's going to impact the cap. And then all of a sudden, Auburn has been right on all of this. I think a lot of these guys that they were second for or third for and had the lowest offer, but it was the only real offer. They may pivot and say, hey, Coach Freeze, sorry about that. You were right all along. Please accept my apology. Now, what's the likelihood of that, though? I just don't think that's going to happen, man.
Where do you think Auburn, I won't say went wrong, but you look at other schools who are pouring resources into trying to develop third-party NIL without it being a collective that would fall in line with the third-party Deloitte NIL Go system where they're saying, hey, it has to be legitimate NIL. You see what Texas has done. You see other schools, Oregon. You see schools that are saying, you know what, we want, like, they can't say we want to have legitimate NIL, but the collectives are pivoting. Do you think Auburn is too late, or that if I heard John Cohen say they'll dive in, jump in both feet first, I guess he said, or something like that.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what he said. And then he was kind of pushed on a little bit more. I was in the room with him, and he said Auburn is willing to do whatever it takes to win, or whatever it takes, I believe is what he said, which is good. I mean, that's exactly what you want to hear, which also tells me that they've got the money ready to go. They just haven't figured out how to get it to the kids yet, and if they even can get it to the kids yet. And I think after August 1st, we're going to learn a lot about the situation. And if it's kind of similar to where it was and all of this stuff is just semantics and bureaucratic crap that they've got to deal with to add an extra step to all this, okay, like I think Auburn's ready to go and adjust. And, I mean, Hugh Freeze said it, maybe a month ago, where it's like, yeah, these offers that we're putting out for these kids, like, it's not even competitive. Like, it's way lower than what they're getting at other places. And so, Cohen's understanding of this, the Auburn AD, the example that he gave at the ambush event at Lake Martin a month ago is like, if we offer a kid $800,000 and say $400,000 from rev share and $400,000 from third-party NIL, Cohen believes that third-party NIL still impacts the cap if it's facilitated by the university. So, like, we just got to see, like, if that's true or not. But I think before we can really have any true guesses on what could possibly happen next.
So my biggest thing is, and forgive me if I'm maybe being a little naive, but I'm thinking, okay, I would consider Jimmy Rain to be our field night, so to speak.
Okay.
If as the prominent booster, or
the most public one, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So why maybe we have 5 ads, or maybe Auburn has 5 ads that say, hey, we're promoting Yellowwood, and you get commercials, and you have guys, chopping wood. Actually, you find a way to use their name, image, and likeness in a way that you can get them a legal NIL deal. And does that seem? Am I tripping, or is that something that would be too hard?
I don't think you're tripping. And I'm actually a little surprised we didn't see more of that over the last few years before all this was rolled out, just to cover your bases and your tracks, right? But yeah, I think it's going to be a more formal thing, like, player A signs with company A for X amount of dollars. Yeah, I think that's going to be a normal thing
Mhm.
moving forward for sure. So does that mean you see more players in commercials and all that? Possibly.
Right.
Possibly, because you want some of this, especially for the larger deals. You want it to be somewhat public, right? So you
Right.
can say, to Deloitte or the clearinghouse is like, oh, look, like we're using his name, image, and likeness. Like this is exactly what NIL is. So yeah, I would think you would want some of that to be pretty public if you're doing deals like that. 100% agree.
So when I talk to younger players and I talk to parents from where I'm from, and and I explain NIL, the analogy I use is usually, imagine having a bag of potato chips and we put your son's face on it. Do you think that your son could sell a bag of potato chips solely based on his face in a specific area? If so, then that's the true essence of NIL. Let's say Auburn gets, let's say it's Ruffles or whoever, Golden Flake.
Golden Flake. Yeah.
Golden Flake. Who who has a face in Auburn that you feel like would sell the most bags of chips if you were to give an NIL deal out?
It's got to be Cam Coleman, right?
Cam Coleman, yeah.
I mean, maybe Jackson Arnold just because of the nature of, the new quarterback in town. But I would think that Keldrick Falk, I
Kelvin
think
Clark is
is
a good one.
one.
Very
He generated
recognizable.
more talk and attention at SEC Media Days this week than
Mhm.
I expected him to. And so I think he's getting that conference wide respect more than just the Auburn respect that he had last year at Media Days. But those would probably be my main two or three.
And
What
I'm
do you
glad
think?
I would probably go. I'll tell you what, if it was me, I'd probably go Deuce Knight if he played a little more just because of the smile and he had all the optics last year.
Great one.
Everybody knows how he looks, right?
Yeah.
So I would probably go with Deuce Knight as far as having a popular face in
Yeah.
Auburn based off his recruitment. But yeah, it's hard to tell. And that kind of leads me into my next question. You were at SEC Media Days, and NIL is about perception, but also conference respect is about perception. From you being at SEC Media Days, did you get any type of pulse on how Auburn is being perceived outside of Auburn, Alabama? Like, what type of respect level do they have within the conference?
Man, it really varies based off of who you talk to. I was set up, amongst a lot of Oklahoma people throughout the week, and like they're pretty high on Jackson Arnold. They just lost the guy, and they're like, yeah, we did not put him in a situation to win. So like they believe in Jackson, which is a big part of how much can Auburn achieve. A lot of it comes down to Jackson, obviously, or just quarterback play in general. And you've got some folks like, Greg McElroy picked Auburn to be kind of the dark horse to win the SEC. And then you talk to folks that think it's going to totally fall apart. And when you kind of push on that, it just comes to they don't believe in Hugh Freeze. Like it doesn't have anything to do with the roster. It's just they
Mhm.
don't trust Hugh Freeze, which I mean, he's made some questionable decisions on the field over the last few years, especially in close games. And so, can he turn that around? That's been something that Hugh Freeze has talked to local media about really since February or so. But I think it varies. But I would say overall that it's more positive than I expected going
Mm.
into it.
Did you have any major takeaways from Hugh Freeze, the whether it was the night before with Auburn local media or on the big stage in Atlanta at SEC Media Days? What was your biggest takeaway from what he delivered as he had his time to speak?
Yeah, the night before, talking to local media at the ambush event, he said over and over and over again just how much he loves this team and loves this roster. And he said, "Hey guys, tomorrow when I'm on the main stage, you're going to hear me say it over and over and over again how much I love this roster." And he did say that. And then on the main stage, expectations were brought up a lot, especially in that response to he said like he knows he's got to win a bowl game or whatever. A month or two ago, that kind of went got a little out of hand, but in my opinion, but whatever. But he talked about the expectation for Auburn football to be in the college football playoff discussion at the end of the year. He said that like 3 or 4 times in just his time on the main stage. I didn't follow him around all day, but I assume he said it even more than that. So yeah, I mean, I would say that those are kind of the two biggest takeaways for me.
How realistic is Auburn being in the playoff discussion in late November to you?
So we've got to, I think we have to describe and define what exactly that means.
Mm-hmm.
If Auburn has 2 losses through Georgia, let's say they lose one of their first 3 road games, which I don't think they'll go 3-0 in. If they do go 3-0, then it is absolutely realistic. But let's say they win 2 out of the road trips to Baylor, to Oklahoma, and to Texas A&M. They go 2-1. I think most Auburn fans would be happy with that. And then let's say they lose to Georgia. So you're sitting there with 2 losses, with your next 5 games extremely winnable. Missouri at home, Arkansas on the road, Kentucky at home, Vandy on the road, Mercer at home. I think Auburn will be favored in all 5 of those games if it goes the way we think it will.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're sitting there and you're like, okay, well, Auburn got through the tough part of their schedule. If they win out, all of a sudden you look at the Iron Bowl and it's like, oh, if Auburn can pull that off at home, like, okay, maybe. So, like, to me, in November, if that goes that way, which I don't think is crazy. I don't know if I'm predicting it to happen, but like, I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. You are in the playoff discussion in the same way Texas A&M was in the college football playoff discussion last year until they went to Jordan-Hare and lost.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't necessarily take what he said to be like, all right, the season's over and we think we've done enough to be one of those 12 teams. But I just think if you're playing relevant games in November, I do think you're part of that discussion.
How many games does Hugh Freeze have to win minimum to get the fan base to a point where him not being in that position isn't even a thought?
I think 8-4 gets you there.
Yeah.
I don't think 7-5 does.
Right.
I think
this roster's loaded, right?
Yeah, the roster's really good. And then also, you got to think about what's coming. Like, we don't fully know. Greg Sankey was pretty non-committal when talking about the future of SEC scheduling, but we're just assuming that in the next 2 years, we're going to play the teams that we haven't been playing. And so instead of, playing Missouri and Kentucky and Vanderbilt, you're going to play Ole Miss and LSU and Florida and South Carolina, who's trending. Oh, and also you got to just assume they're going to keep Alabama and Georgia on the schedule. So it's like there's a lot of pressure this year, because if it's not this year, like, when is it happening?
When is it happening? Yeah, and you got it. You got everything, right? You needed a quarterback before. That was the issue.
Yeah.
Now you got your quarterback. You literally have the best wide receiver room in the SEC in the conference. There's not another wide receiver room I'd take over Auburn.
I agree.
And you've got NFL first round defensive linemen, possibly 2. We just don't know how some of those guys develop. You got everything you need to have a very good season. Now you have to figure it out. So how does he figure that out? Looking at what you know from last year, where outside of quarterback, that's obvious. Is there any other position or additions to this roster that would have helped you last year that you say, oh, you know what, if we had Eric Singleton last year, we can make these plays? Or, oh, if we have this guy last year, if we have Jacoby Matthews last year, this doesn't happen.
Yeah.
What roster additions do you feel like actually would have helped Auburn last year?
I mean, if he pans out the way that NFL draft experts are expecting, I think the jump from Percy Lewis to Xavier Chaplin at left tackle is going to be tremendous. I mean, you talk about a guy who you were really excited about, Percy Lewis last year, and it just didn't work. It just didn't work. I don't know if I'm not going to criticize Percy or anything. Just it didn't work. Now you got Xavier Chaplin in, who's being mocked in the first round pretty consistently. So obviously, I think that'd be a big deal. And then I think just overall the development of Keldrick Falk. Like, I don't know if, like, what I'm expecting from him this year is going to be on a similar level of Derek Brown in 2017. Like, just guys that you don't really get too often.
Right.
Total force on the defensive front. So I would say the development of Keldrick too.
Is this the best Auburn roster in the last 10 years? Or let's just dive into the last 10 years. What team or what year do you feel like has as much talent as this one?
Probably 17. I think 17 is the argument.
17, right?
Yeah, I mean, because Derek and Marlon, the guys on the back end were really, really good too. Stidham was a good college quarterback. Kerryon Johnson.
Right.
Darius Slayton, Anthony Schwartz. Like that was a good roster for sure.
Mhm.
So I would say I think on paper you can make the argument that this roster is deeper.
Right.
But 2017 was a good team for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. So speaking, we know 2017 made it to the SEC championship. Ill faded. Was that the? Hold on. Did that team did make it to the SEC championship? Didn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That,
Beat two number one ranked teams in
right.
the span of 3 weeks. I think
Man.
Carrion got hurt, and so we couldn't do
Oh,
anything
that's
against
right.
Georgia. Yeah.
Really, the last really exciting year in Auburn. It's been a while. I think
Yeah.
19
And the
was kind of cool.
2019's Iron Bowl was incredible, right? But
Right.
yeah,
Right.
as far as entire season, 100%.
Does Auburn have to beat either Bama or Georgia to be for this season to be considered a success?
I don't think so. Like I think if you beat Baylor, if you split the road trip to Oklahoma and Texas A&M, that's your first loss, and then you lose to Georgia or Bama. If you win all the other games, like I think you'd feel really good about
Nine
the
and three.
season. That
Nine and
puts you at
three.
9-3, right?
Yeah.
Now easier said than done, all of that. But even if you slip up and get a game that you shouldn't lose on the road to Arkansas, maybe Vandy gets you again, or maybe you lose to Missouri again, whatever. That's still, it gives you a little bit of wiggle room to get to 8-4. So now, obviously, if you beat a Georgia or Alabama, it changes everything. It
Mhm.
changes everything. It changes the narrative, helps with recruiting. I think it would help with everything. But
Right.
can Auburn have a successful season without beating one of those teams? Yes. But man, it totally changes everything if they do get one of those.
Based on the current roster, what position group do you have to nail this year in recruiting? I don't care if you have a top 20, top 30. You got to nail this position group based on what you're going to lose in the future.
That's a great question. I would say defensive line is
Mhm.
important because I feel like it's important every year.
Right.
Which they haven't done great on the defensive front so far this portal window. You've got so many different classes that are stacked at defensive back, so I'm going to shy away from that. I feel like the linebacker room's pretty young. Quarterback, I'm really not concerned about it, and you've got your guy in this class, it appears. Running back, whatever. Like you got two young guys in last year's class. Tight end, maybe so.
Got to nail tight end.
Yeah, like they probably need to add another one. I know they got one of them, but they probably need another. Probably could add some receivers, but I would say, and they're doing fine on the O-line now. Wilson Zaire, as we record this, he committed about an hour or two ago.
Mhm.
I would say defensive line.
Defensive line. Is there?
But that'll probably be my answer like most years, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
you just can't have enough.
Are you thinking more edge, or are you thinking maybe more
Yeah, all of it.
tackle?
I think all of it.
D line.
I think so. Yeah, I mean you look at the teams that consistently make the playoff, and it's like they're able to dominate on the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. And I feel better about the future of Auburn's O-line right now than Auburn's D line. So yeah, I would say defensive line, just all of it for sure.
I want to ask you, when you think about Auburn recruiting, like when you think about certain teams, you think about a Bulldog they have recruiting. You think about Georgia, they got T-Rob, they've got Trey Scott, they got DeRebe. You think about other schools, they have guys. Who's Auburn's Bulldog recruiting? If you had to go win the positionless recruiting, if you had to win a recruiting battle on this staff, who would you send out to go bring that kid home?
Goodness. Can I say Hugh Freeze? Because it kind of seems like it all goes through him, which is good and bad.
Yeah.
But right now, I would say Hugh Freeze is still the guy, the ace, when it comes to recruiting right now.
That's fair. I would say, yeah. And it's hard.
Does Kenyatta count?
Does Kenyatta count? Yeah.
Not on staff, so he's limited in what he can do. But, man, he's in the middle of all of it as much as he can be.
Yeah, man. I mean, when I talk to the kids in Atlanta, I mean, his name, Coach Kenyatta comes up.
Yeah.
And what he's done previously as far as all the camps that he has and the relationships at Grayson. Yeah. I would say, I think I would probably go with, I think Marcus Davis has done a good job.
It's hard to argue against what he's done so far. I mean, he's gotten several dudes in every class since he's been here.
Yeah, and that's why I don't worry about the wide receiver room this year. He always gets a guy. I love his style of recruiting. Very straightforward, very football based.
Yeah.
Actually, I would venture to even say a little faith based recruiting. So
Sure.
I think in today's world, it makes him more unique than anything. So I would say Marcus Davis, but either Davis or probably I like Vontrell too. I think
I was about to say Vontrell. Yeah.
yeah.
Both of those guys, like they haven't, like the other guys that you mentioned at the other staffs, like the T-Robs of the world, like I had, correct me if I'm wrong, but like you're not sending Vontrell to like get non-defensive line guys, and
Right.
you're not sending Marcus to also go like close a corner. Like he's
Right.
staying to their position groups.
Mhm.
So like I don't know if Auburn really has a guy that's like consistently branching out into, maybe Derek Nix if it's like a Mississippi guy, they'll send
Right.
him.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, like I don't know if Auburn has like an exact like comparison to some of the guys you mentioned.
Yeah, last year I think I think what gets kind of swept under the rug a little bit, and when we talk about Auburn recruiting, is the fact that you lose a guy like Charles Kelly,
Sure.
who literally worked at Florida State, Tennessee, and Bama, and
Yep.
Colorado, knows damn near every high school coach of the Southeast, and you lose
Right.
a guy like that, and he was just like an OG uncle, like, and I think I think a lot of times when we think about recruiting, we don't think about the synergy of the staff. So you have to rebuild that when you replace a guy like Charles Kelly with a TJ Rush in his first position job. There's going to be, and I'm not blaming TJ because I think he's doing a phenomenal job.
Sure.
But when you lose a guy like Charles Kelly, it's kind of rough to try to how to make that up. So I think Auburn's just having a few growing pains, and as they get into the newest iteration of this staff, I think, and they're not finished. I'm hearing there's another staff change probably going down soon. So in the recruiting department. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. But
yeah,
before we get out of here, Zach, man, who is your breakout player? Who do you think that maybe nobody is watching? Not a Cam Coleman, not a Eric Singleton, someone that nobody is like this year's Caleb Harris. Doesn't have to be a freshman, but somebody who maybe didn't play a ton last year that you're looking forward to having a big year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this fits the criteria exactly, but I'm really high on Malik Blockton. I don't think he's being discussed enough outside of Auburn. I think he's primed to have a really good season. I think Kieron Crawford is extremely underrated and undervalued when you talk about edges in the SEC, especially with Keldrick and Malik. I think are going to get a lot of attention. I think Kieron's going to have a lot of one-on-ones with opposing tackles, so I think that's going to be a good spot for him. But man, like I think Jay Crawford is going to prove himself to be one of the best corners in the SEC this year. I think Jay Crawford is going to feed families this year.
Agreed, man. I think he's a phenomenal corner. I think a technician. And I think that some of the things that he's been working on in the offseason as far as his speed, his takeoff, his get off, and still his technique. And being able to get reps against Eric Singleton and Cam Coleman every single, and Malcolm Simmons and every wide receiver in that room every single day over the offseason has been phenomenal for him. But yeah, Zach, where can everybody find you on social media, and where can they find you? I know, well, Locked On Auburn, of course, but where?
Sure. Yeah, no, Locked On Auburn, available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. And you can find me on socials at Z Blackerby. I'm there.
All right, man. I appreciate your time, man. Y'all make sure you like and subscribe and go become a member. We need that. Thank you.
Do it.
All right, man. Appreciate you guys.